Everyone, once again, I think we can start already, because I think we have quite interesting and quite intensive 2 hours. Let's hope that all of us are benefiting from those, and the most I would appreciate, of course, that our joining guests benefit from it and learn from what we are presenting. And also I expect that at the end of the event we can have some discussion between us, get to acquaintance with each other, and maybe see if we need future, or if we want to future cooperation together. So the title of today's event is How Can We Help SMEs Towards Circular Economy Business Models? And that's event initiated by our project we have been running for 3 last years. It was the SYMBIOMA project, what we call it in short, but the project was dealing with the technology innovations and business models for valorization of industrial waste biomass in sparsely located enterprises. And the cases we were working on was food and beverage industries. From the pictures, you would see that it's the beer and distillery industry or brewing industry. Then we have the fish industry and potato industry. As title says, that we are all located in the sparsely located areas, which are areas of our northern periphery and Arctics. In the map, you see also the countries involved in the project. So we have partners from Ireland, from Norway, from Sweden, and from Finland. And the main purpose of today's events is actually to introduce the services we have been developing during the project. The services are mainly for SMEs, to help them to understand better the circular economy and to find the businesses in circular economy cases, and also to learn from each other's. And occasionally we expect that also intermediate organizations could be brokers of our expertise we've been developing during this project, and also that relevant services we are providing would also be further used by the companies. Based on this, we also made the program for today. So I would briefly present the research and development organization services and the services in general SYMBIOMA has been developing. We would present also the roadmap, which is one of the approaches we developing services for those companies. Then also value creation challenges in biomass industries. We also have few guest speakers from Motiva in Finland. Motiva has very good example how food industry could be promoted to introduce the circular economy or to have the circular transformation. And also we have one Irish organization helping to understand us how to connect organizations and various stakeholders for circular economy. Finally, we have words by one of the participants in our project, and he was developing the few cases, or he was working on few cases for the brewery industry. So from his lips, we can hear how did he experience working in the project and what kind of services he would think the SMEs are needing. But before we start, I was thinking that maybe we can make some very small exercise, and I just want to ask you about the services you are providing and what services do you think organizations are needing. So Heli now is adding the pool, and please answer to the questions. No, mutta okay. So can you share then? If you share your screen, or can you? Sorry, technical problems. You start sharing. You take the screen over. Yourself as well.
I think we can all see the results. Yeah.
Yeah, we see them on the chat.
So I was talking, I think, but my microphone was closed. You see all from the chat that about 42% of organizations were serving 1 to 5 customers per month, and then another half of participants were serving about or more than 10 organizations per month. And as I was just mentioning, that depends probably on the size of the serving organization, and it also depends on the services we are providing. Another question would be about with what idea the SMEs are coming and what services they are expecting to get. So how many of them are asking about the improvements in environmental performance? And then how many of them are really asking about the circular economy transformation? So please add your result. And then again, we have that about 70%, about 1, 2, so it's quite few of them comparing to the result earlier that more than 5 or 10 are coming with some questions asking about the circular economy. What do you think, if Heli puts on the third question? What are the challenges they are actually coming with? So what do you see, what they are asking for and what usually they are needing? So add everyone about 3 words you think are the most important, what they are lacking. So from those words, maybe we can then see what the services, or we can match them with the services I would present later on. Okay, we have 13 answers now, so I think almost all of us have answered. And the biggest concerns or the biggest request companies have are related to grant and financing. That's, I think, clear. And this is what is always rising up. And it's clearly that we as a research organizations and most probably also business development organizations directly, we can't provide grants and financing, that we can advise how and where from to get it. But then we also see waste as a one important word coming, so that companies, I would understand that companies have waste and then they don't know what to do with it, or they don't know how to benefit from it. And this is what is actually also estimated by many of the researchers who have been working on the barriers and on the different challenges why the circularity is not still uptaken that well across all the Europe and across the companies. And keeping in mind that we are also dealing with very small companies and also in the remote locations, so we have more specific challenges. So as you see in this slide, we can group all the challenges into 4 big groups: technological, economical, institutional, and social or cultural challenges. I probably would rather start from the right side of the table, where we have the social or cultural challenges. This is coming with the, history and tradition of the company, with the different cultures companies have in the communication between the staff and with the communication within the supply chain, how they are cooperating with the supply chain, and if they have the collective commitment to the environmental sustainability and circularity. So as long as the company's culture is not set to be ready for the circularity, then nothing happens. It doesn't matter how good technological, economic, or other institutional measures are existing, the company will not join the road. However, if the company is ready, then the coming another challenges they are dealing with. So the technological challenges, quite often companies lacking the expertise. They are very good in their core product manufacturing, so they are very good and have very good knowledge about their main product or their bread product, how they would call. Let's take example the beer industry, with which we are working here at Centria in Finland the most. So I know probably then the most. They are very passionate about the taste of the beer. They are very passionate about what kind of yeast to use or what kind of new hops to buy. But then when it's coming to the side streams, they are waste for them. And they just need to, or they just try to get rid of it as easy as they can and as cheap as they can. So they don't put more effort on the developing new product or new technologies from this waste, which I think, again, they are lacking the knowledge of that, and then they are lacking the resources to do that. They also lack the know-how, how to do that. They would also think that that's a very complicated process, and they don't know where to start. So, of course, it's coming also with the economical challenges and barriers. Usually when you start dealing with a totally new product, it's like developing the new product line, a new company. So there you have high investments at the very beginning. You have high development costs, because usually the circular economy involves long supply chain or value chain. And somebody needs to control all that value chain, and then they could lack the capacity to do that by themselves. Also, those companies quite often are missing the economic incentives to understand that where they stand in the market if they implement those solutions. So they need to know that there are some benefits they would get. Let it be financial benefits, but in some cases also the environmental benefits they gain, and which are acknowledged benefits. It would be good for them and for their branding. Then they also miss the marketplaces, so they miss the place where to put that secondary product or this side streams or waste streams to be seen to others, that somebody who is looking for the similar type of raw material could find them easy. And of course, we as a customers have also our quality perceptions of the product when it's used something recycled side stream or waste, and this also causing then some economical problems, as we don't have, or we can't put the high price on the product. Institutional barriers and challenges, they are mostly related to complex waste legislation, and quite often value chains are very long, and often they are international. As example, could say, for example, what we were working in the beer industry, if we would use the spent grain from the beer industry for extracting proteins, and we would use those proteins in cosmetics. Our small countries are very small to have enough market for the product, so it should go internationally. And then again, we are facing the different regulation problem in the different countries, and understanding what quality of waste of the side stream we need to provide to be acceptable also by the type of industry we are working with. So one of the very important factors also, I see that we need to have the passionate person to work with the circular economy. And as it calls in most of the literatures, this orchestrator named person. So who is really responsible for the circularity, who is taking the charge, and who is setting up all the system, and who is setting up all the business? Is that the one who is making the main product and then having side and waste streams as a second product and selling it as it would be raw material, or is it someone else who is coming just to pick up that raw material and taking charge for all the technological development and all the further marketing? So this is one of the examples just to show how few we are or how many we are, and it's don't know how to treat it. We are small, we are not really very few. For example, in Finland, we have about 50-60 breweries in our NPA area, but they are really very small. So the amount of waste we have in there is not that big to have the to have the profitable investments, or to invest profitably. And if we would calculate it as a one, then probably we have enough of the material. But again, because we are far from each other's, logistic costs are so high that it's not really profitable to do that. That's why we have to create the value networks. That's why we have to find with whom to cooperate and what kind of other streams we can take into the same technological process to be able to have its economy feasible. So now, if I am going to my main subject, what is the services our research and development organizations can provide to develop those circular loops? So the main role is, I would see as a R&D organization, is to provide inspirations. So as you saw already in the very beginning, one of the constraints is the culture and the social acceptance within the company. So I think through bringing good examples and through inspiring examples and showing that other people are interested in those solutions and bringing this kind of buzz around, we could also promote the circular economy change, cultural change without the company. Then, of course, we would need to provide the knowledge, technological know-how, and then access to the pilot infrastructure. One of the important what I see is to matchmake with technology providers and potential new product users. And that's because we as a researchers, we are working in the multidisciplinary subjects. We are dealing with the different industries around us. So we probably, with our technological expertise, could see better where the waste of one company could fit into the raw material streams of another company. So we could be the ones who are able to find the value network locally, or maybe go further from the local environmental, local ecosystems to the national ecosystems and also to the international ecosystems. And then we also could see that the provision of the methodology and tools to develop businesses is also what we can provide. So our approach in SYMBIOMA was to develop the technology innovation platform as a digital tool for companies to find the information related to the circular economy development in those three segments. And then that our innovation platform would have enough of inspiring message or enough of inspiring solutions and cases to contact us further and to take us to the road on the development challenges. So our services are grouped into three main groups: circular economy, business development, and consulting. Then we would have analysis and raw material and products. And then finally, technological development. We would provide knowledge, tools, infrastructure, and services. Here down you see our website to the technology innovation platform. You can go to it now, but I think that we have a lot of information there added, so you can explore it later. And our approach for the circular economy, business development, and consulting is roadmap. We see the different services needed at different phases of the company's development. As well as we know that the companies are at a very different phase when they are starting, and then they are at a very different size. So we also took into account that everybody finds something related to what they to their development and to what they need. I don't talk about that later more because our partner Luleå Technical University, Wiebke Reim, will present you that in more details. Then in technology development services, one of the most important things I think is not only to have the technology development in the laboratory scale, but to have the pilots. So in quite many cases, we need to have the application research. And in application research, when the company is approaching the client, usually few grams what we get from laboratory is not enough. So I see that we are having, or our partners can provide with the quite advanced technology pilots so that we could provide the needed amount of materials for the further application studies within the customer companies. It's not in the laboratory necessary anymore, but it could be provided by the to the final user of that potential product. We also can provide technology scouting, which means that knowing the problem and knowing what kind of side of waste stream is available, we could also look for the different options, for the different solutions. I can assure you there are a lot of research done on at least for those three industries what we dealing with, so potato, fish, and brewery. So we can find a lot of already ready research data, but we have to find a way to apply those data and make the technology pilots and then make the value chains with the final customers to have ready market for it. We can also assist in performing the sustainability analysis. We can do material audits, we can do energy audits, we can calculate the recyclability rates. We can also do, if it's needed, our life cycle assessment studies and life cycle cost studies. And then, of course, laboratory research is one of the things we can provide. One of the advantages I think SYMBIOMA has is that we have one-stop shop. So that would mean that actually anybody coming to that page can contact us through the main email, and the company will be answered and will be served. Does not, although we have our partners in that network and the contacts of those partners, but I think that because in research organizations quite often people changing, so having the common address, I think that somebody will always answer. So, and this is one of the almost last slides. So just as a conclusion, we could be brokers of knowledge and skills. We have wide networks, so we can match with the right experts, let it be experts in the industry or let it be experts also within research organizations or other business development support organizations. Then we have very good knowledge in the different sectors, so it means that we can match make companies which were not having contacts previously. We can be translator of the knowledge, so it means that we can translate research data into more useful form or into more understandable to the smaller industries form. Then we can be also very good conversation and ideation partner. It means that through the expertise of our people and through the knowledge our people are gaining during all the different products we are providing, we can just be the person to talk to and person to have the ideas and to get the inspiration with. And also by themselves pilots and working for the different applications, we also have know-how and can do that. So my final word would be that I know that different intermediate organizations dealing with the assistance of the SMEs and assistance in business development could take us on journey. Then when the companies are coming to ask about the specific example or about the different companies and how they would match for the certain waste streams or the certain side streams, so we could be the one to assist you also in your everyday needs. And so my final sentence is take us to your next journey, and thank you for listening. I think there could be time for short questions if you want now, but if you don't dare to do it now, we can also leave it for the very end of the event. Yeah. So we don't have questions and we don't have questions in chat, or do we?
No questions, only if are the slides shared after this, your presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, slides will be shared. Yeah. Okay, thank you for listening. And I think it was just to continue with our services. And the first and important service is support for circular business model development. And Wiebke, take the screen from me, and now it's word is free.
Yeah, thank you for this nice introduction to our project, and welcome everyone here. Nice that you're joining and listening. And the topic that I will talk about now is the roadmap to support circular business model development in SMEs. And you already now saw the roadmap that I will present here, and I will go through it like step by step soon. And my name is Wiebke Reim, and I'm a senior associated lecturer at Luleå University of Technology in the subject of entrepreneurship and innovation. And I've been part of this project, and I also was presenting this project at another project, the Root project, and I know Amanda is also here in the meeting, and they made this really great like summary of like what I was talking about, like about my research and this project, and the research that I've been doing is quite a lot on circular business model, and I will introduce that soon as well. And we also look quite a lot into like business ecosystems, that you actually need to do those things together. You cannot do it like by yourself. And we look, of course, at the like benefits, and also how we can use technologies and digitalization to do that, and also like just to empower people like that. Yeah, you can do something, you can contribute to this like circular transition. And I think also all of you listening here today, it's quite important to know your role and to support like the local industries and the smaller companies to get going with this change. But now I just have to show you what I actually had for lunch today. This was my lunch, because we had like a small event today with the Science Center Teknikens Hus here at our campus, where we actually, like, as a result of our project, this project served like BREEAM. It's called Brax in Swedish, which actually is a side stream. I have another picture about that project as well, which actually is a side stream of the fishing industry up here in like northern Sweden. And it's a fish you usually would not like catch for eating. You would just like, try to get rid of it again, throw it back again, or try to do that. But with like new technology and new like initiatives like this company Guldhaven, they actually try to like do something new of these side streams, and they really try to like also find the right business models to make use of that. And this like event today, where we actually had the kitchen at the Science Center preparing like a really good meal of this fish, was really nice to see, and also like to talk to the people all there, that that there really is an interest in like food and local food and so on, and also on this like sustainable perspective of that, because this like eating this fish like the breams would also be quite good for the biodiversity of the Baltic Sea and so on, and you really would use side streams and from local foods. So it's a really nice example, and it feels really nice to have like this type of concrete outcomes where we actually now have served it to quite many people there at the Science Center today. So that I think it's really nice also to see like the effects of the project. But now I would like to come back and talk a little bit more about like circular business models. And I think that is like, it's a word that is quite a lot used nowadays. It's like circular economy, where we try to like loop things and like try to make a better use of different materials. But circular business models is also like really having this like idea of that like we should like really create value by like doing this type of having this circular thinking. And I took with me also the definition that we usually use from circular business models, and as we will share the slides, you will get that with you as well, that circular business models is actually a business model where you look at like a focal company, those company that you would like to become more circular, but that you together with partners, so you don't do that alone in most cases, because it's like much more complex and much more work on that, where you actually use innovation, like you do something different to like create, capture and deliver the value. So like this thing you commonly do also, like the business model described, and you do that like to improve the resource efficiency by like extending the lifespan of the products, or like or using them in a different way, and like really realizing like at the same time environmental, social and economic benefits. So the idea of circular business model is really having in mind that you would like to have this environmental, social and economic value like at the same time, and not just like in different stages or in different ways, but that the business model is created in a way that you get that. And here I just took with me also like the like one type of framework, how you actually like can categorize this different like circular initiatives or like practices that you can use to become more circular, because that's quite diverse. It's not only about like looping materials, it's actually like about even optimization or like do things differently, and I think that's also quite interesting sort of to think about the circular business model, like how you can loop and optimize, and which like principles you can use to become more circular. But now I would like to focus on the roadmap that we have developed in this project, and that is also like it's shared on our technology and innovation platform at symbioma.eu. And I think this is like the idea was really like to see, okay, but how to get going and how to get started and how to really like do this journey to become more circular. And in this project, we have like done a lot of like interviews and interaction with a lot of SMEs, and we have like, reviewed document reports. We have like worked with our project deliverables. We have internal workshops and validation of this roadmap to like finally like present a roadmap that we think can help to guide the process to become more and more circular. And here you see the roadmap in a bigger picture, and I will get back for each step to this one again. And we actually, what we actually see is that you will not move from like being like linear or like do business as usual to be like fully circular. That is something that is quite unrealistic. It can be like if you'd like do a totally new facilities or like establishment that you can do with that. But what commonly would happen is that you like need to take this like journey, or like need to take this like path again and again to become more and more circular. So, and I think that's also what we try to like show here, that it is like a path that you need to go again and again, and that's also why it is like visualized in this like round way. But what we can say that is actually you would have to like start with basically like a phase 0 that is more like of this like initiation and trigger phase, and we'll explain a little bit more. Then you would go to a first phase where you look at the business model and the resource stream you have, going to a second phase where you like would try to design your business model and ecosystem. You have a phase 3 where you look at the technologies and integrate that, and you probably by like finding out the technologies and so on, you probably might have to go back either like to the start again or like to the second phase at least. And after that, you would try to like scale this up and really like make use of your business model. And you also have, of course, like external factors around that have an impact on you. But if you would start to look like at the first or the phase 0, basically this like initiation trigger to circular business model development, and if you like would think of the logic of this phase is that you actually need to understand that there is like a transformation ongoing, and then that you can be part of that, and that there is actually like circular economy initiatives that are relevant for you as well. And I think nowadays we are quite aware of like climate change and that we need to be more sustainable in our way of doing. But I think it's still quite important that like the individual companies or like people working at the companies actually have the like feel that I can also contribute to this like transformation, and I can also do something different. And I think that what a little bit is an input to this like phase, and we have like designed it like, or like describe every phase as like an input, and the activities you would do and the output you would get from that is that you actually have this like either external factors that you hear from someone else that there's something different, or like internal needs that you, I need to like just do something with this waste, and there has been like changes in regulations or something like that would force you to take this initiative, so like could trigger your beliefs in doing something different. And I think the activities that would happen in this phase is that you actively participate in events where it's like more talk about circularity or like sustainability, but you also like would be like more open and active in sharing source. And I think like all immediate organization and innovation actors, they have a quite important role in this, like really like empowering companies and different people to say, okay, but there's something in it for you as well, and you can also contribute to this and do something different. And what we hope that would be like then the output, like to get going with this journey, is of course that you have like inspiration to like, okay, I can also do something, and there's something in my business as well that can be done differently, and you've heard things from others, but also that you of course have an understanding of like what would be the requirements and what's like meaningful for me. And like for each step, we also present a toolbox, and here of course like our technology innovation platform is helpful, but of course also a lot of like home pages and all the information that you can get like from different events and pages on like transformation towards sustainability and circularity. And if we then like have managed this phase 1, that we have like an idea, okay, we would like to do something different and we would like to do, then there's actually this first phase where you look at what you actually have at hand right now. And like this phase, as it is called, analysis of current business model and resource stream, that you of course is like the logic is that you look, okay, currently I do it in this way, like what is like good and what is bad with that, but also what is maybe like relevant to change, or what can we actually change like from as a first step. And you of course enter this like phase with like a vision towards that you would like to change something, but then you have like different activities that you would could perform in this step to like get going with this transformation. And that is of course like to look at your current business model, to look at like do like a SWOT analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and strengths, but also really analyze the company's waste and side streams, or like overall resource streams as well. And what would be probably an output of this phase is then that you actually select one like resource or side stream that you actually would like to do something different with, like that you would like to utilize in a better or different way. Because as I said, like this is a journey that you need to take again and again. So, and I think this is like quite important to keep focus. Of course, if you would look for a brewery, then they may be focused right now on spent grain, and then they don't look at the yeast or the wastewater or something like that. But just to select something, okay, now we will try to do something different with this because that seems relevant or might even cause problems later on. And of course, you can use like the business model canvas or the SWOT analysis, but also like get general templates to analyze the waste streams. And all of those templates, they also like find them on the SMBIOMA.eu on our like technology innovation platform, a link to that one. And when you then have like selected one like resource stream or waste stream that you would like to work on, then you would enter this like second phase here, which is about business model and ecosystem design. And this phase is then about like identifying, contact, and develop partnerships, and really also like to think of, okay, like, but how can we, like now when we want to change something, how should the new business model look like, but also how do we really need to change like our way of doing things, because in most cases it will require like new partnerships, like working with like partners you haven't been working before, but also like, yeah, that you have to do things in a different way, and especially for like smaller companies or like, yeah, also quite a lot in this industry, that like there is a way of how we always have been doing that, and then I think there is a need to really think through, okay, how can we do things differently, and what would that like also imply for the rest of our company, and so you would come with like this analysis, and then of course you need to really have this idea generation about how to do things differently, like try to learn from others, really like go to matchmaking events and like do stakeholder analysis and really be open-minded and try to find those new partners. And I think also here, like the immediate organization have a key role and like try to promote this like new collaborations and really show, okay, but here we can do something different. And of course, in some cases, it can also be like someone outside that contacts you and say, yeah, but here I have this like technology, so this like business model, do you want to join with that? But then you still have to go through and think, okay, what does that imply? If I take out something like a raw material that I maybe previously have used just as like fertilizer, but then someone else want to use that, like, but how can I do this differently afterwards and so on. So I think it will of course affect like the operations that you have. But hopefully like you find like good partners, the right partners, and the way that it looks like that you can really work with this like potential circular business model. And I think here also you have a toolbox of like stakeholder analysis, like brainstorming material, but also the circular business model canvas template. And after that, then it would be phase 3, the technology and the ecosystem integration. And here it's really about looking, okay, in many cases this would require like new technologies, new like system investments and so on, that really would like would make it possible to be more circular and really create like a different value of the waste and side streams that you have. And here it is quite important that you try to pilot and like to work with those partnerships and try and test. And as I said, it might happen that you need to find new partners because there might be like things that you need to solve or like look into that you would work with. And I think here really it's like the activities are about like analyzing the technology readiness level and like try to make use of each other's investments and like really think of like how this like circular business model design which you best can work with, and also like to make a big effort in aligning the processes with the ecosystem partners, and also like, yeah, this type of negotiation, how should we work together, like how can we like make benefits out of that. But hopefully after like negotiation and arranging and testing and like forming these partnerships and integrate those technology, you hopefully end up with like a circular business model, a more circular business model that actually is ready to market and where you actually see potential that things can be done in a more circular way. And our like tip platform is like a useful tool in this as well. And then you would actually enter to this phase 4 where you really would try to scale up the circular business model and really make use of it, and hopefully of course like create this value, like both environmental, social and economic value that really would like give you the incentives to work with that, and like by scaling it up and probably use like all of the whole side stream or the waste stream, like for in the new business model is of course like the goal that you would have with that. And I think it's here also like, yeah, you need to engage with more stakeholders. You need to like see how you can go from a pilot project to like the large scale rollout, and you really have also to look at this like market, the emerging markets, and the like for this like new products that you create, and also like see the opportunities for growth and expansion. And I think also in the project that I just talked about with the Reim, with the fish that we served, I think it's quite a lot about they really have like developed the technology, but now it's really to find like the market and to see, okay, how can we actually like bring this to the people to really make the difference that we would like to do with this like good project. And as I said, we also have this like external forces that we can, that are affecting like this journey of the companies, that they should like then probably start again. If they have like implemented one of the business model, they would go again. But we have this like external forces, as we see like external environment forces, and there can be like legislations, there can be like, yeah, this forces that is more towards circularity and like reproduce that can help you. You can also have organizational forces, which is more about like what is like company impacting the company inside. So like how can you like organize that, how you can change your yeah, like this implementation of the circular business model. You of course have like technological forces where like there's new technologies developed and so on, and you need to keep track on that and need to be like up in the front of like on this developments. And you of course also have like market demand forces. You are quite dependent on, if you want to create value, and especially economic value as well, that you have like a market that is developing in the way that you would like to as well. And let's see. And now I just want to like finally present some key takeaways like from like this roadmap development. And one is of course that the circular business model innovation is a continuous task. Like you can use both incremental and radical innovation to become like more circular, but it's like really something that you do like in a circular way as well, like becoming more and more circular by doing this, like walking this road again and again. And I think it's also quite important to be really like open for inspiration and like see this like how you can really make something different in your operations, and not to just say, okay, I do as I always have done and as my father has done and so on, but really like be open-minded and be open for inspiration, and that things actually can be done differently as well. And as I said, like the immediate organizations are quite important for this as well. And then it's really like about the development and integration of new technologies and partners needs to be also done like in an iterative process, like and requires like learning and adaptation. So it's not so if you find a new partner and say, okay, but we could do something together. I think there's quite a process that needs to happen, like to really like become like partners that are collaborating in a good way and working and see the value for both of them. And I think that like just looking at the business model and do this analysis is and also use just like the model, like the business model, as I say, is just the model to try and experiment and test like if you can do things differently. Because if you just like would look at your business model and you say, okay, but maybe we could do something different with this like side stream or waste stream, yeah, but how would that affect and so on, so that you also can like just in this business model analysis, just like on paper, basically, you can already like identify quite interesting things and like be experimental and open-minded in this. And one thing is also that there's of course like quite many like tools available that you can use and that can help you. And yes, we would like to share with you, like, please find out more about like this roadmap, but also the other work we do at our like platform, SYMBIOMA.eu, where you find this platform. And that's all that I wanted to share with you now. So thank you for listening, and if you have some questions, just let me know. Okay.
Thank you, Wiebke, for the very nice presentation. And I think it was so much of knowledge that everybody's now overwhelmed and try to bring it back home and think where to use it better or where to use everybody.
Exactly, but I think also with like having it on the homepage, and there's also like presented in a quite good way. So please go there and check and make use of the tools and so on that we have there.
Okay, so we are still continuing with the personnel from the project to present what is the most important we discovered in circular transformation. And Lampros will present you the emergence of bioeconomy and the importance of matchmaking in value creation for biomass industries. So Lampros, screen is yours.
Yes, thank you. Let me try to do this. I hope you can see my screen. So thank you very much, Edigija, Wiebke. This was a really nice discussion so far. So with my presentation, we are taking a little bit more macro picture of biomass and bioeconomy. So we're going to talk about the emergence of bioeconomy and the importance of matchmaking in value creation for the industries relating to biomass. And when I talk about that, I like to use this picture that's from the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, where you see the three main layers: the economy, the society, and the environment, the biosphere. And we have the number 17, which is the partnerships, to show how it is important to have the proper partnerships in order to achieve these goals. So starting with a whole discussion about the bioeconomy, what is the bioeconomy? A very nice definition comes from David Zimmerman, which says that bioeconomy is this continuing evolutionary process of transition from systems of mining non-renewable resources to farming renewable ones. So it's not just doing business in a different way, but it's doing completely thinking business in a very, very different way than we used to have. So if you go also historically, you'll see that bioeconomy is part of a much bigger picture of bigger changes that are happening. Partly it was fueled by what we call the green, genetics, robotics, information, and nanotech. So it's this technological convergence that fueled bioeconomy, especially at the early stages. The technological advances and also the intersections of these different technologies and different principles across industries and across sectors. And probably you're all aware with this butterfly diagram from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is one of the key players when it comes to the circular economy. And on this diagram, they try to bring together the biological cycles and the technical cycles. And as Wiebke said, the idea is that we try to use and reuse again and again all the materials that we have. And sometimes this can be very complicated. For instance, this is the structure on a biorefinery. Sometimes it can be much simpler, like in the case of a very simple wood supply chain, for instance, that can be used for different products, but also can go back to steam and energy, and then use again the energy recovery to go back into the system. So as I said, it's not just a new way of business, but it's something very different. It's a new paradigm shift in what we call in socioeconomics. And it's a very nice theory by Kuhn that describes how we have this paradigm shift and how it affects our understanding of doing business. And behind this paradigm shift, there are some foundational aspects that they make it different. These aspects, they have to do with the demand side of things, what we call the pull. And that is mostly the need for biotech related products and services, but also on the supply side, which is the push factors. And it comes with the form of new technologies, new products and services in biotech and the bioeconomy in general. Excuse me. as well as all these interconnections that we see and the flexibility that we see in the value chain. So we have these new value chains or value webs, as I'm going to argue, that they go way beyond our traditional understanding of supply chains and markets. So in terms of economics and business economics, the main idea here is that we have market dynamics that they go way beyond the usual models that we used to have, especially when we have this neoclassical approach to economics. So for instance, now we observe a lot of co-opetition, which means that we can have collaboration in one part of the value web and competition on another. Synergies that in many cases the bioeconomy, they are indispensable. Systems thinking, which is a holistic understanding that we need to have in order to understand the different value webs or the value chains, if you want. And also new business models that now they get more and more embedded and they have this long-term strategic approach. So when it comes to business models, we used to talk in business economics about the business model canvas that I'm sure you've seen many, many times. Now we have this transition to the sustainable business model canvas, where we have the addition of the circularity, excuse me, in terms of the business model and the innovation, as well as environmental and social factors. So we'll talk more now for the business model and the innovation elements. When it comes to innovation, we have the rise of the innovation Helix frameworks that they come in different forms. We have the triple, quadruple, and quintuple innovation Helix interactions. First, so on the triple, we have the academia, industry, government. Then we are the civil society. And at the end, when we have the quintuple, we also have the environment. And again, this is something that started very theoretically at the beginning. It's more than 10 years ago. There was a paper by Karaganis and Campbell that they started this discussion. But we see now the innovation Helix framework applications in everyday businesses. So in overall, we're talking about this circular approach that now it's been expressed in all parts of the value chain, from raw materials, excuse me, from recycling, reprocessing, designing, even on the very early stages of designing, distribution, consumption, and so on. So it's not a value chain anymore, really, if you want to think it this way, but it's more of a value web. So on the left part, you see the old understanding that we had for the economy, which is the linear economy: suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and consumers. It's the value chain. On the right hand, you see the value web, where the suppliers, they connect with each others, the manufacturers, they connect with each others, as well with the different levels of distributors, consumers, and back to the suppliers. So it's a much more complicated, a much more different way of doing business. So on the actual applications, we see that clusters, they work very, very well. And this is particularly important for things like biotech, but also for different elements within more traditional parts of the bioeconomy. The short story here is that with clusters, one can take advantage of economies of scale, of economies of scope, as well as synergies. And we have many industrial symbiosis schemes together with the innovation platforms and healing frameworks we can find throughout the world. And of course, the industrial symbiosis. And this is the case from Denmark, the Kalundborg symbiosis, where we have these different actors that they work together on different levels. They exchange energy, water, materials. As you can see here on the graph, what we don't see on the graph is that they also exchange information, they exchange knowledge, and they exchange the networks that they have. So having all of this as a background, there are some challenges that we need to overcome that they have to do with regulatory things, they have to do with R&D funding, and they have to do with more business economics. For the regulatory hurdles, this is also related to the uncertainty in regulations. In some countries, this is more prominent than in others. We have done some work with what we call the circular regulations. And the idea is to update all the legacy institutions, the legacy regulatory frameworks that they don't work nicely. And the reason that they don't work nicely with the bioeconomy is that because they were developed with an understanding of a linear economy. Excuse me. So some examples of these regulatory shortcomings, they have to do with regulations for the pesticides that create entry barriers and extra cost on biological pesticide industry, the biopesticides. Another example is the case of organic fertilizers, and of course the case of biochar. And this is part of the work that we have done so far with the circular regulation, that the idea here is that we have a bioeconomic growth that is informed by science, enabled by technology, driven by business, and supported by policies and institutional frameworks. So the new idea that we have for these regulatory frameworks is that they are supposed to create this enabling environment for the bioeconomy. And we hope that soon we're going to get much more better progress into that. In terms of challenges, of course, the R&D funding is a big problem, especially for small, medium enterprises. There are different programs here. There are public, international level, national level, and regional, like we have on the SYMBIOMA, and private programs. And for the last part, it's mostly has to do with the business economic side of things, like market access, maintaining innovation, the novelty of the value webs, and the market dynamics. And this is something that can only be taken care with symbiosis, cluster, innovation, Helix solutions. So to put everything together, we have the circular economy that is a new socioeconomic paradigm, is a paradigm shift in business. We have this movement from the value chains to the value webs that are much more complicated, and they have different market dynamics. And the only real way to make this work is through this matchmaking process of finding partners, of getting engaged into the innovation Helix structures, symbiosis, if you can, and of course, clusters. And just to say that there are a lot of people that were working on that, so don't hesitate to get in touch with us through SYMBIOMA to see how we can help. I think soon the technology innovation platform is going to be fully active at symbioma.eu, that you can also use and take advantage of that. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Lampros. It seems that we all have so good presentations that nothing to ask. Or maybe this is overall the overwhelming amount of information everybody is getting. You can send also your questions into Q&A session, but you see on your top, or into chat, so we can discuss them later after all the presentations are finished. Okay. So thank you, Lampros, and I think then we are changing to people we invited to present how different countries are working with the different issues within the circular economy. And we have online Finér from Motiva, so it's the Finnish organization, and he would present the measures which food industry in Finland is having to kind of promote and to show that they are committed to the material efficiency and the circular transformation. So, Aki, thank you first for agreeing to talk to us. And now the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon from my side. So I'm representing Motiva, which is a state-owned company working on sustainable development. And short introduction to the company. So we are working mainly for ministries and agencies to promote those sustainable development targets which state have. So we are taking those targets into actions and try to find ways to reach targets which we have in Finland. But of course we cannot do this alone, so we need our partner network and different kind of ecosystems to reach those targets. But we work quite impartial and open way, so we share a lot of information what we have discovered, with what we have learned, and of course we are developing different kind of operational models and tools to share with actors in public sector, but also in private sector. And I will describe today you some of those tools which we have developed for circular economy, and those tools are very usable also in the food industry. You will see that in our work we also are putting effort on different kind of digital tools. So we are constantly developing different kind of digital platforms, and of course we will aiming to have different kind of technologies to help us in this circular economy sector. And I noticed when I was listening to Wiebke and Lampros that there is a lot of similarities or a lot of different kind of tools which can be implemented also in Finland, what you are working with. So that's very interesting to find synergies. So that is what we do. We work with our partners and in networks. So it's nice to hear what you are doing. Shortly, so we are very well known from our work in energy efficiency sector. We are supporting sustainable consumer choices, and I'm representing the business area which is focused on material efficiency and circular economy. But we are also speeding up the systematic change also, for example, by public procurement. So we are developing the ways to include sustainability in the public procurement processes. So here is the picture of different kind of measures I identified that we are using to encourage commitment to material efficiency and circular transformation in different business areas. And as I told, these are also very suitable ways to implement in food sector, and especially the voluntary material efficiency commitment in the food sector it's implemented first in food sector in Finland, but of course the material efficiency commitment can be used also in different other business sectors. I will introduce these tools, these operational models to you next. So let's start the path with material audit. So the material audit was developed in cooperation with Business Finland, and it's a systematic way to evaluate the material flows in different companies in their production. So how much materials, what is the material intake, and how much of these materials go to the products and what are the side stream and what is the waste. So the way the material audit it gives costs for different materials and then it models the way how these materials and costs go through the process. And of course, the material audits it's used to find the improvement points, and there is when the audit is done, there is also and always proposals what are the concrete actions to achieve improvements in the process. So that's a very systematic way to look through the operations of the company, but also the material flows inside the company and how it can be improved. What we do as a Motiva, we educate those and train those material auditors. So private companies are, of course, the customers for these audits, but there's a lot of different companies who make these audits. So we train those auditors that they follow the instructions which Motiva and Business Finland has stated for this process. And so we are the trainers, and then Business Finland can fund these audits. So if the food industry company would like to understand better how their processes work and what are the costs of different materials and material flows, they can get funding from Business Finland for this operation. But this is the start, for example, the starting point for food company working in the food industry to get the knowledge of the material flows and the operational efficiency. Then we have introduced the voluntary material efficiency commitment in the food industry with ministries and industrial association or different sectoral industry associations. So this is a voluntary action to improve the material efficiency in the food industry. So the ministries and the sectoral industry associations have set the targets. What is the target for this commitment? And then the companies can join this commitment by making their own commitment, and they determine their the best methods and instruments to reach those targets. But in this commitment, they can choose the best suitable ways which fits well in their own processes. So we don't ask them to do certain actions, but they can choose those actions by themselves. So it's voluntary way to boost material efficiency in the companies. And now we have started the second period of this material efficiency commitment. The first phase was during 2019 to 2021. So now we are wrapping up that period. We have started now the second period, which is in 2022 and 2026, and now we also got the Finnish food and drink industry in this commitment, Finnish Grocery Trade Association, and also the Finnish Hospitality Association So they have signed the commitment. So we almost covered the whole food chain to this commitment. And the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and Ministry of Environment are representing the public sector in this commitment. And so the companies choose the actions. They can, for example, design more material efficient products, improve their processes, or they for example find the better ways, efficient ways to utilize their side streams of course in circular economy way to utilize those side streams. And the target is that these actions will lead to measurable cost savings, and also to save natural resources and lower the companies and the food industry's environmental impacts. So that this has been a very efficient way. Here is the snapshot of our results from 2020. There was 15 companies involved. They had 103 actions, measures what they made, and they reached almost 9 million euros cost savings and reduced food loss almost 6,000 tons during that period. Of course, I would like to address that most of these companies are forerunners. So now we are in the second period of this commitment. We are focusing, and we're trying to get smaller and medium and small size companies to take part of this commitment. So we get more broader variety of companies involved in the commitment. Then when companies take part in the, for example, the material efficiency commitment, they can use and choose to use Finnish industrial symbiosis system to find different actors to create this value web, as Lampros just described to us, that it's to work in a circular economy. It's not a linear way. It's like a value web. So we operate as a Motiva. We operate the Finnish industrial symbiosis system in Finland, and we have created tools to promote circular economy, bioeconomy, and regional development through this system. And I noticed that there was a lot of different kind of tools what Wiebke told us, which can be used in this industrial symbiosis system to create those different kind of business models for companies to allow circular economy to operate profitably and efficiently in the future. But we have 15 regions presented at the moment in this system, and we have involved more than 1,000 companies since this system was introduced. So there's a lot of different kind of workshops. Those regional operators, they collect companies to share information about their side stream and wastes, and then those different kind of tools, which was in Wiebke's toolbox, can be used to make it to allow the circular economy to flourish in the future. So that is also a way for food industry to like commit to the circular economy in the future. But of course, we need to place where companies can offer their side stream and waste to different companies to utilize them, find the synergies. So in Finland, we have this kind of a marketplace called Materialitory, where materials can be exchanged between companies. And the desire for this open platform, it came from the companies and also the operators, regional operators from Finnish industrial symbiosis system. So this is the platform where companies and communities, for example, can add an advert that they have this kind of different kind of a side stream where they would like to find a user in the future. And the platform was launched in 2019. At the moment, there is more than 1,200 organizations using this platform. There is almost 1,600 users for this platform, and during the 2021, around 600 adverts or notifications was published on this platform. So it's constantly growing. The user amount is constantly growing, and the number of notifications about different waste and side streams, it's growing and growing. But we of course need to educate people to use this kind of platform to find users for their side streams. But this is also it's free of charge. Food companies can use this to notify markets that now we have, for example, this amount of yeast available for different processes and so on. So we have created and we are maintaining this kind of toolbox or operational models for companies to get involved in circular economy and find ways for their side stream and waste, and also to create or make their material use more efficient in their operations. I hope this described what we are doing. And I'm happy to share more information. You can contact me, and I would like to exchange the ideas and of course, for example, heard about different kind of tools to make circular economy work better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Aki, for the very nice presentation. We have a few questions here. One question was of mine, but okay, we leave it for the last. The question is about the Motiva's relationship to Sitra. So what is your relationship to Sitra?
Well, we are partners. We work together. We are, well, Sitra has a different kind of funding, for example, and different kind of ways to operate than what we do. So I would say that they are our partners. We are not, for example, competing, and we also implement those tools and methodologies what Sitra create. So we are pushing them to the market, so to say. So we are working together to support the circular economy.
Okay. Next question I had actually, have you noticed what kind of companies are announcing about the side and waste streams and Materialitory? Because I believe food industry waste is a little bit tricky because of the preservation problems. So somebody needs to pick it up fast, or the food industry has to prepare it in form that it's preserving for the longer time, and only after that announce that they have some certain amount of waste available?
So my own impression is that there is quite a lot of materials from the building industry.
Yeah.
And also I have noticed that there is a side stream from how to say, clothing industry, so fashion industry, for example. I haven't seen the statistics. My colleague is responsible of material theory, but I believe that there is some of food industry streams, and I know that they are struggling to find the users for their streams. So I hope that they will present their streams more often in materiality to find the user for the side products.
Okay, thank you. Then one question from Edigija. So he's saying that even though the companies are responsible for putting forward their process and improvement actions to reduce food loss, are there any targets or deadlines put forward by the government or Motiva that these companies have to meet?
Of course, we in Finland we also follow the food loss reduction targets, so it need to be halved before 2030. So that is the deadline or target, which is in the background in our material efficiency operations. But now we are like leading the way and setting the stepstones or the different intermediate targets for food loss in this material efficiency operation. So they would. I will get back to you here, say, about the target. I will look it through from our materials and put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It seems that no more questions and thank yous. So we would move to another presenter. So now we would get some experience from Ireland. Dominic Schöne would present connecting organizations and stakeholders for circular economy. That's a very good extension of what was presented by Lampros and also by all the other speakers. So screen is yours.
So, hi everyone. I know Dominic has joined us, but he's having poor connection. So we had already recorded his presentation. So he's away in Scotland, and I would be, I would like to say a few words about Dominic. So he works for IDA Ireland. So IDA is the Industrial Development Agency. So it's a statutory government-sponsored body in Ireland. And their aim is to bring in foreign direct investment to Ireland. And Dominic here works particularly in the green economy group of the company. And he holds a master's degree from NUI Galway in strategy, innovation, and people's management, and also another level 9 qualification from Trinity College Dublin in climate entrepreneurship. So I'll try to share the video and see if it works.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Uni, for the invitation to speak at this. Hopefully this will be of interest to you all.
Is it working? Hello? Can
I
you
hear it, yes.
Yes, we hear
Yes,
it.
it's working.
That's
Yeah.
fine. Yep.
Great.
Just
thank
turn
you
up
so
the
much.
volume, please.
Sure. Thank you.
So I'm Dominic Schöne. I work with IDA Ireland and specifically IDA Ireland's Green Economy team. So yeah, I'm from County Carlow, specifically from the foot of Mount Leinster, which you see on the top right here. Work with ID Ireland's dedicated green economy department, which consists of a team of executives in Dublin at our head office, as well as a widespread overseas team of 7 executives across North America and Europe. So I'm going to go quickly through what we do and how we bring organizations together. How can companies collaborate with IDA and, most importantly, with our client base? And I'm going through examples of what we see happening in this space. So IDA Ireland, if you don't know us, we are Ireland's investment development agency. So our job is to attract international companies, you know, to set up and build out operations in Ireland. So this could be office-based or more industrial, with the classic example being a pharmaceutical plant. Ultimately, our objective is to accelerate economic development and job creation in Ireland. So our team specifically then is to support international companies who are already based in Ireland in decarbonising their operations. Then our job is to also attract companies from North America, Europe, or wherever to Ireland that will further enable our existing clients in Ireland in decarbonising. And then thirdly, we are tasked with attracting companies to Ireland that will enable Ireland itself as a whole to achieve its climate goals. So, for example, achieving 80% renewable electricity on the grid by 2030, but of course relevant to this is Ireland and companies based in Ireland achieving much higher degrees of circularity in their operation. So how we do this? So we support 1,600 client companies, which directly employ over 260,000 people in Ireland. So we have a dedicated client relationship service and an annual grant program of 100 million. So at the start of the process in attracting companies, we would be hosting site visits. So if there is a bit of interest generated by a company in establishing an operation in Ireland, we would host a site visit where they get to meet peer companies, research centres, recruiters, or anything relevant that might help them influence their decision on whether to set up an operation in Ireland or not. So we would help them shortlist options of locations. So we might be competing with another European country or wherever, you know, could be a manufacturing operation. And we would provide introductions, provide ideas, info, what they should look into. And also when they ultimately decide whether to go for Ireland, we then make life easier for them by providing a fast landing service, helping them out with employment permits and visas in case they want to hire specific high-skilled people from outside of Europe. Then we can also provide them with property solutions. And then when they are a client, we help them with funding programs, with research, capital investments, to employ in more regional locations outside of Dublin. We also provide sometimes some grant support, and of course relevant to here, environmental support. So if they are investing heavily in decarbonisation, there are supports that we can provide in order to do this. And then at the end of it all, when they've announced their employment ambitions to hire people, or projects where they are setting, for example, up a solar farm on their site, which we had one example of last year. We helped them with public relations and media support. So there are a lot of reasons why companies from North America or Europe like to set up operations in Ireland, and you can see some of those here. Quite importantly, recently you have our Ireland's climate commitments, which are legally binding and incredibly ambitious. And one of the big things is our commitment to have 80% of electricity to be generated using renewable energy by 2030. So lots of large energy users, primarily manufacturers, they like this idea because they have net zero commitments themselves. And if they know that there's a high percentage of renewable energy on the grid, they know that there's a security of supply of renewable energy that is higher here than might be found elsewhere. There is also this pipeline of battery storage projects and also ambitions for hydrogen. So green economy companies specifically are interested in Ireland as a market. So to set up here and to be part of it all. So, there's quite a market demand for those types of solutions. So we would be in the middle of all that, basically trying to make things happen in order to accelerate economic development, job creation, and further decarbonization of international companies which have operations in Ireland. Of the companies that are based here, so there's quite a track record in terms of sustainability. Because they are leading companies, there is quite a lot of pressure on them. So we had a look at this. So 66% of ID Ireland's top 100 clients, they have made net zero carbon pledges and actively disclose their carbon footprint every year. Furthermore, 15 of ID Ireland's top 40 clients are actually achieving A ratings on sustainability, which only 3% of companies globally have. Up 3% of those that are actually reporting have. So this is quite significant, and we would like to see this increase drastically over the next number of years. The first step on this process often is our Green Plus grant. So we are incentivizing companies who haven't done so much yet, or kind of in early days of their decarbonisation efforts, with a Green Plus grant. So we want that there is an in-house capability within operations in Ireland, so that staff can then, go about the efforts to, reduce carbon, reduce energy, introduce circularity into their processes, and really ultimately we want a climate action plan, and we want that it is adopted and that there's a clear, investment strategy in order to achieve these goals over the next 5-10 years. So this IDEA grant is much smaller than our other grant, but it's a nice starting point, after which then we can bring along our R&D grants are sometimes relevant, but also our environmental capital grants, training grants, and there's an awful lot more there how we can support our clients. In terms of collaboration and seeing companies work together, so ID Ireland works together with our sister agency, Enterprise Ireland. We have set up this partnering portal. So basically any company that is based in Ireland, be they international or Irish, they can register on this portal, load a profile, find business partners across different areas, and directly source solutions in what we are calling disruptive and sustainable technology. So this was launched only a few weeks ago, and hundreds are registered already. So for example, within the circular economy, solution providers could put ideas in here, and then directly find other companies that could use their solutions. Or perhaps if there is a company that knows that typically a certain type of pharmaceutical company has a waste product which they themselves might actually be able to use in their processes, this might perhaps be a way for them to go through the directory and find companies that they can then link up with. What we have seen happening so far is mostly visible stuff. So we see wind turbines being built on our existing IDEA client sites. We see solar farms being set up. So of course we want that scope 1 emissions are reduced first and foremost, what is in their immediate control and within nobody else's. We want them to concentrate on that. However, there are a lot of companies which are very advanced along their, with their scope 1 emissions, and are already tackling their scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. So circularity plays into all of this, and of course with the recent dynamics of the last few years, circularity, there's also the competitive advantage to be gained by companies. So we are seeing more and more companies across all sorts of sectors, engaging with circularity, and also offering, products where, their USP is something to do with circularity. So you see here some of our clients here, and also organizations that we work with. And there's a lot going on. So Blanco, for example, they have a software hub in Ireland where it's all about enabling circular economy within the mobile phone market. So they're developing a software to enable that and researching into that. Then you have some pharmaceutical companies and medtech companies such as Boston Scientific and Astellas. they're looking a lot into the packaging and making sure that they have a zero waste to landfill and very high percentages of recycling of their waste materials. A lot of the main companies in this area, they work with Amber. So Amber is a research centre based in Dublin, but they work with a lot of different universities, third level institutions across the country. So they are looking at sustainable materials, sustainable packaging, recyclability. They also work with NSAI, whatever, developing standards for what is a circular kind of process. And then Circular Era, of course, you might probably know of. So that's a branch out of the IMR in Mullingar. So they're looking at circular economy mainly within the manufacturing industry, and they've already developed quite a number of partnerships. Then you have Rent the Runway. They have a software hub in Galway, so they're a US company, and they're kind of a circular economy within the clothing and fashion industry. So they're tackling fast fashion where an item may only be worn a number of times and then never used again. So they're offering that, people can rent out clothes. It's quite interesting how they go about it. But this kind of idea can be applied to all sorts of industries. So these are some that we are aware of. There's some confidential ones that we can't refer to as well. One example is of a company where they're using offcuts from Cuilcha. That is their intention anyway, their plans to use offcuts from Cuilcha, so the main forestry agency in Ireland, so to make spores to grow then seaweed out of, and use this then for carbon sequestration, seaweed-based carbon sequestration. So lots of interesting ideas. In terms of the bio area, I think that's probably the main example I would be aware of. Then you also have, of course, a number of companies where they have biomass-based heating systems, particularly pharmaceutical companies with high heat requirements. But in terms of the actual packaging or materials, the one we often would refer to here is Logitech. So Logitech, the last year they kind of managed to achieve that 65% of all mice and keyboard units now include PCR, so post-consumer recycled plastic. So their sustainability team is led out of Cork by Robert O'Mahony. So it's quite impressive what they have managed to do and what their continuing ambitions are. So there's a lot of advantages for companies to engage with circular, which you are all aware of, but there's also of interest to us. We're trying to accelerate economic development, job creation. So if a company goes down the route of circular economy, it's of, you can see here and yourselves the benefits to them, but a lot of those link to what we are trying to achieve. So it often means, higher paid jobs, more economic development, more resilience. So security of supply of materials, maybe that's something that gets tackled here. So it's definitely something that is not just on our radar, but something which we are actively trying to promote and encourage. So, and this feeds into our strategy. So our strategy 21 to 24, driving recovery and sustainable growth. Sustainability is a major component of that. So it's one of the main 5 pillars on which our strategy lies upon. So we're playing a key focus now on winning foreign direct investment from the world's leading companies across all areas of the green economy. And we want to see that Ireland is on its way to becoming a major hub for the green economy. And this goes back to this slide here. So how we do that, we host site visits. So maybe there is a circular economy solution provider from the US or from Europe that can provide something to our client base in Ireland. So maybe pharmaceutical companies, they're struggling to really figure out how to solve their problem of introducing, more circularity in their processes. So we are already doing that where we're providing introductions, but I feel like we're only getting going. There's some very impressive companies out there with some very impressive solutions and ideas. So we want them to come and set up in Ireland, not just to create jobs in Ireland, but also to work with the companies that we are already working with, and also to work with, Irish companies and to work within the wider Irish economy so that we can then achieve our climate goals. So thank you very much. This is a recorded video. Unfortunately, at the time of this webinar, I'm in Scotland, in the mountains of Scotland, so my connection mightn't be quite so good, but I will be on the phone and hope to be able to take any questions if there are any after this. Thank you very much.
Well, we have to say thank you for Dominic. I think he was online because he was answering chat questions. And I can just briefly say, if somebody was not looking at the chat, but following the presentation of the video, that the question was about, can the grants be combined? And the answer was also that the different grants can not be combined. For example, Green Plus grants are calculated based on the actual company costs and would typically be projects that are not funded by other mechanisms. So, and as it was said by Dominic in his video, actually, you can directly contact him. We will share contacts at least of all the presenters, I think, in together with the video, what we are going to share then through our technology innovation platform. Okay. So thank you once again, Dominic. And I think we are moving to one of the most exciting, probably, or directly from the lips of the person who was using our services, so who would have the direct idea what kind of services we could provide and what he was missing. So Matthias, I think now would be your turn.
Is it my turn now? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Do you want I put the slide on?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I was planning to go to Finland now for a beer festival, actually. I come from Bottenvikens Bryggeri, which is a brewery in the far north of Sweden. So, and we'll be part of the SYMBIOMA project from the start. So, and of course we are a brewery, so we mainly produce beer and other beverages, also julmust if you're Swede, and tonic and those types of things. We are, if we talk a bit about Bottenvikens, we are 3 employees. We are 2 founders or owners that are currently working in the brewery. And tomorrow we're going to be in Oulu for a beer festival. So we're about to sort of pack up and go there. So that's where we are at now. And I didn't know if I was going to be on the road or but I'm currently at home and we're leaving shortly. So that's me. My background is actually I've been working at first I did a PhD at the Luleå University of Technology. So I have a PhD in product innovation. That's my field of expertise. And then I've also worked at the LTU Business, which is the tech transfer office, mainly with early phases of innovations, of course. So that's sort of helping local SMEs or SMEs in the Nordic region of Sweden, connecting with researchers at the university and students at the university to help them with the early phases of innovation. So that's what I've been doing. But after the summer, I started working full-time at the brewery together with my partner Joachim Nilsson. So we are the 2 people that are working within this project also at SymBioma. So you can take next slide, perhaps. So what have we been doing in this? Of course, we have a lot of waste in our industry. Main bulk of the waste is that we are using malts. That's what you put. You know, in a beer, there's malts, there's yeast, there's water, and there's hops. So those are sort of the 4 main ingredients in beer. And regarding the waste from malts, which is malted barley mainly, we call that spent grain. So what we are doing is we are taking out the fraction that's part of that grain or part of that malt, taking out the sugars out of the malt, and what's left is the spent grain, which is mainly has fibers and proteins. So that's what's left after we make beer. We make beer out of the maltose sugars and other sugars that we get from the malt. So what's left is actually the spent grain. And we have looked in SYMBIOMA, we have looked a bit about what we can do with that kind of food waste, because it's a high grade. It's a high grade waste because you can actually eat it, and it's a food grade. And when we take it out, we can either put it. What we have tried is actually to use it as. In this picture, we are using it to grow mealworms in that. And of course, growing mealworms, we have done that as a trial with Research Institute of Sweden, RISE, and their data center, which is called ICE. I don't know the abbreviation of that. Anyway, they are part of in Luleå. And when we are looking at data centers, we have a lot of data centers up in the far north of Sweden. That's actually a major industry for us in our region, because we have green energy coming from hydro plants and windmills in our region. So we had one of the first Facebook data centers outside of the US is actually situated in Luleå. So we have research involving in that, and what they are doing is looking what can we do with the residual heat. So for them, one of their wastes is actually heat, and it's a low grade heat. So what can we do with that? So in this picture, we also looked at data centers where they can use it for using it in greenhouses, because we're quite cold up in the far north of Sweden, in Luleå. But we also looked at mealworms. How can we do that? And why we targeted mealworms is that mealworms produce a lot of proteins that can be used as chicken. Either you can use it as food for people, but that's not allowed in Sweden. At least in Sweden, we can't eat insects as food. So what we've done is to look, can we use it as chicken fodder? So we grow mealworms in our spent grain, and what we got out is also fertilizers, and then we got the mealworms for proteins for chicken. So we can also create together with we have a local farm called Klevebergsgården. They tried that chicken fodder and sort of saw that it works, and it's a good source for them. What they are currently using is actually they are importing a lot of soya beans for chicken fodder. So it makes our regions in terms of food more resilient, so we can produce eggs and of course chickens as well through mealworms and using our spent grain as a brewery. So that's sort of one picture of what we have been doing. There is of course a lot of other stuff that we have looked into as well. But this was a trial for us. So I saw that Cindy Kyle is here from Polarbröd, and we have talked a bit about using the spent grain together with them. And since it's a part, what you get out of the spent grain is mainly proteins and fibers. And if you're looking at healthy foods, what you're looking at is mainly proteins and fibers. So can we use our spent grain to put into bread to make more healthy bread? So that's one of the ideas that we are currently investigating how we can do that. On the downside, spent grain out of our brewery is wet. It's wet when it comes out, so we need to sort of look into how we can dry it so that it has a longer shelf life. Right now, the shelf life for spent grain, at least for food for humans, would be like a day or two, perhaps, because then it starts to ferment, not creating beer, but creating other stuff in the spent grain. So we need to sort of dry it in a way. And other stuff that we have looked into also is, can we use the yeast cakes that we get out of the spent yeasts and so also spent hops that we are using in the beer. That's also part of that. So that's what we are doing. And I think you had some questions, Edigija. For me.
Yes, I think I have the question. Thank you very much for the extended presentation. I think we don't know what you see now, but I am trying to sort out here where I am.
But I also
Okay.
think you wanted to have my view on sort of as being an SME, because we're quite a small SME in the far north of Sweden, involved in the food industry, about how we can utilize these kinds of because it's not that common that small SMEs are using EU funds or Interreg funds or that type of funds to be able to do these kinds of stuff. And of course, if we didn't get the funds, if we couldn't be part of a SYMBIOMA in that sense, we would mainly focus on our main product, which is selling beer. That's what we're doing. That's what we are doing. So we wouldn't explore how to get mealworms and how to do this and how to be part of a circular system and doing that type of thing. That wouldn't be on the map for us. It would be more, we need to produce beer to sell beer. That's what we are doing. Some core business. So SYMBIOMA makes us, or these kinds of projects, gives us the time to explore, to think, to sort of to take part of and explore the circular economy, and so building new business models out of that, and also be able to do that. And of course, being a small company, we're quite agile as well. So we can jump on an idea. We don't need a lot of decisions. It's just me and Joachim that takes all the decisions. So if we want to go for something, then we do that. And in SYMBIOMA, we have the funds to be able to do that. Of course, we have a board as well, and they are saying, hey, focus on beers. And I'm saying, hey, it's nice to go this way, also looking at circular models and that type of thing, because it's interesting down the road for us to be able to do that.
But what services do you miss usually from research and development organizations, and then also from intermediate organization? Because, you know, sometimes maybe you go also to the regional development agency and well, you expect services from them also. Yeah.
When we are approached by these intermediate organizations that are where I was part of, like LTU Business or Energikontor Norr, there are lots of these kind of intermediate organizations. They have a project to promote something, and of course we want to promote that, but sometimes it becomes a bit too much for us, especially if we don't get funding for doing that. So that's I think what we are missing is sort of having the funding so that we can spend time on it. That's one of the key things. So more easily available, perhaps small or big funding for small and medium-sized companies to take part in this, because there's this gap. Sort of we have research, and researchers are. I've been a researcher, so we're doing some trials, and then we are creating. What they are doing is they are creating knowledge, and mainly when they disseminate the knowledge, they are disseminating it into not the companies, but sort of the research community. So there's a gap in between sort of doing that in that sense. So the knowledge is not that readily available for SMEs to take part in. So that's one of the key things, sort of, to do that. So I think sort of bridging the gap and sort of and doing that, that's the key target. And one of the ways to do that is to create funding that are easy for small and medium-sized companies, because you can also be a small and medium-sized and you're swamped with this administration stuff, which doesn't do anything in terms of that. So it has to be easy. That's my thing to sort of say. Make easy funds for small and medium-sized companies to take part in research programs, and you will sort of, in that sense, you will also bridge the gap between academia and the business. So if you take part in that, because usually if you don't have funding, you don't take part. And if you don't take part, you don't get the knowledge, and then researchers go off and disseminate in their academia, and then you just have that. So you need to sort of have funding to be able to sort of get it out into industry. Of course, larger organizations usually have a research liaison and that type of thing that sort of takes part in and can disseminate at the company level in a different way. But for SMEs, that's not the case.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you, I think, for the very extended answers, and we all definitely, and it's very nice that you have the kind of insight from the both sides, from SME and also
Yeah.
from the research, because you've been doing that yourself. So
yeah,
now
yeah.
you know what you did wrong
I know
when
what
you
I
were
did.
a researcher.
Yeah.
Or actually,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
know.
wrong, but what was it the audience you were dealing with, right? Because I have also the same idea that actually we have to find the kind of, we have to tackle that bridge between SMEs and the industry and the research. And one of the things is actually not that we really don't want to do that as the researchers, but quite many of us have been working only with the research. So we have certain terms, we have certain approach, and we are presenting things like very enthusiastic researchers. And because we never worked ourselves in the industry, most of us really don't understand how to downshift our language to the really language understandable for the person who never been doing the research.
No,
So this is the thing.
I know, but sort of bring them in and sort of do that kind of thing. I think that's the key, sort of doing that. And there are, of course, other hindrances as well, sort of language barriers and that type of thing, and doing that. But sort of the first thing is actually to bring them in a bit more, and sort of, and also perhaps do that kind of, I think one of the key things in any kind of project where you're working a lot of partners in that is do a bit of a sort of expectation management in the beginning. Sort of what do you expect out of the SMEs? What do the SMEs expect out of the researchers? What do you expect the outcome of this project to be? I think that's sort of the key things to be able to bridge these kinds of gaps, regardless if it's a national gap. So sort of the Irish might have a different approach than the Swedes or the Finns or whatever, or organizational differences between everyone. Sort of get that up on the table and sort of try to mitigate all those differences. I think that's sort of the key thing to be able to do that.
Thank you. What about others asking from Matthias? Now you have a good chance to have to grill him and to
Please
extract
do.
everything you need to know about how to serve SMEs better. So he could give his critical comments also, I believe, on the services he's not getting.
Yeah. So please do. I don't have any chat. I don't know. There's something wrong with my teams, so I can see the chat actually.
Okay, in
Just
chat actually there were a few questions. So one comment was that there is a pilot program in Ireland led by EMR Circulare. The spent grain from some breweries used in panel to food bread product. Waste bread from the bakery was also utilized as a grain substitute to produce beer.
Yeah,
that's actually the most common. I think that I know also other examples, but then again, well, someone don't want to do that. We just had big discussion with one brewery and with a bakery. So they did that, or they did that as a project base. So technology is there, everything is there, it's possible, but none of them is seeing it as a product they want to market. So they put into shop, they sell it, but it goes what it goes. So it's kind of, nobody is putting really full heart into that to make it a final product and somehow to market it. Then someone was doing some small tea, whatever these cakes. And they said, well, it's a hell of the cakes to be made and sold to use all the BHG from the small brewery. So that's again kind of, people need to find the passion for the product, or it has to be very high economic value for it.
Yeah. I think that's also the case when you. But there is also a shift in consumer patterns as well. So people are getting more and more interested in both the local products. We are seeing a rise in interest in locally produced beer rather than beer produced elsewhere, shipped here and then packaging, shipped back. So that's the first step, and then sort of seeing how we can make it more sustainable and in a circular economy kind of way. Doing that, actually, there is the beer that you're referring to is called kvass. so it's a kvass beer.
Okay.
When you're producing it with bread in the beer.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I know what is kvass. I'm Lithuanian myself. I know that.
But
and I
if
know
you
that
see
it's good.
kvass, then you know it's produced
Then
with
I have to taste
bread.
also your kvass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yep.
So, but
Yeah.
I see that coming. So it's a sort of the next phase in how people are choosing what they're consuming. So that's sort of.
That's actually summarizing very well all the message. So the value and network, and everybody's involved, industry, society, as a client, and so on.
Yeah.
So we have to train each other's, and it's not only the economics which are at the end point probably matters. So because we have to bring the message across to until the customers start to demand it. So then we can produce it. Because at the moment we see it a little bit again like the probably new product in the linear economy, which will go the same way, the same time marketing and so on, which is we need to change the way we are thinking about circular economy and about the products in the circular economy. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. There was
Thank
one
you.
question also, this the residual heat from data centers or any other source be used direct and spent grain. Yeah, I think it can be used for drying.
Yeah, we are also looking, because in the northern part of Sweden we also have this we're producing. We have the steel plant that we are having here, and also the industrial park that LKAB, the big mining company in Sweden, are putting up, and seeing how we can use residual heat out of those as well. Those are currently from the steel plant is more high grade, so it's used more for what is it called? Fjärrvärme, heat for houses and that type of thing.
District heating.
Distributed heating, yeah. So that's what they're using right now. But of course, there's more low grade that can be used for different types of. I know that the data centers also looked into using the residual heat for drying wood, sort of that. Either wood for burning or wood for doing that, but they need a bit more humidity in that, so it's not a really good way to do it.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody else wanting to ask something?
No, thanks a lot for the answer on the data center. So I was just thinking, I don't know how much heat actually comes from the data center. Suppose there are some smaller industries near the data center, not only the brewery, some others. Can the heat be used for, say, something like a district heating kind of stuff for that smaller community nearby it? Is it feasible? Is that much heat available? I'm not sure. I'm just asking.
The difficulty with data centers is usually that, of course, one of the key reasons that Facebook opted for Luleå as their site is also that we have quite cold climate. So house heating for houses you generally need to have a lot while it's cold. But when it's cold, you have a lot of natural coolant within the data center. So they put off less heat when it's cold outside. So that's sort of one of the. So it's sort of like an they use less heat when they put off less heat when it's cold. Unfortunately, so you need something that needs heat even during the warmer months in summer. In that sense, but I'm not a data center expert. You can always contact Rise Ice in Luleå, and there's a guy called Mattias Westerberg at that Research Institute of Sweden. He can answer any questions you have about heating coming out of a data center, and it also has to do with sort of what kind of heat they have. Is it a ambient cooled data center, or is it cooled by you can also immerse computer into an oil, and then you have sort of you can run it hotter and that type of thing. So, but I'm not an expert in that. So he is. So I couldn't answer. I could just guesstimate in that sense. So, but there is a lot of energy being used, and it's also currently just put out sort of sort of on the rooftop of data centers. There is sort of always summer, even though it's minus 30 degrees in Sweden. so a lot of heat going out.
Thank you so much. What's the name of the research center again? I did not get it.
It's RISE ICE. So RISE, Research Institute of Sweden. ICE, like in ice, water.
Okay.
So
Okay.
ICE.
Okay, great.
So and then then they have websites, so you can always contact them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know we are late, but if somebody still has some questions for Matthias, just free to ask. It seems that nobody anymore asking anything, but thank you everybody very much, and thank you, Matthias, especially. I think
I can just put in the last sort of, if you need a company in the far north of Sweden in the food industry or beverage industry in that sense, I'm always available. You can always shoot me an email and we can sort of discuss future projects. So
good. We do.
I'm open for that.
Very nice to have companies on board because we know why we are doing what we are doing.
Yeah.
So it's always also motivating us researchers, and it's motivating to work on some common subject and serve. If we can't serve all the world, you can promise to save all the world, but if you saved one, it's already good.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
And that's how we should go, one by one, small steps, then we get to big.
Yes.
And I think with that note, maybe I'm finishing the event for today. Thank you everyone really for participation, and I just believe that we still keep in touch, and any questions you have, just ask us through SYMBIOMA. We will definitely get back to you, and I just hope for the future cooperation with everyone. So thank you, and bye for today.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, bye.